Most high performers think they have a motivation problem. They don't. They have a nervous system problem. And today, in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix it from the ground up. Because here's what no one tells you. You can't think your way out of a nervous system dependency. You have to rewire it. And that's exactly what the system I'm going to show you in this video does. Hi, welcome back to this channel. I am Vibhuti, your performance and authority trainer. I believe that authority is not personality. It is a nervous system training to build capacity. And that's exactly what we do together on this channel. Most people think that motivation is one thing. But in the last video, we established that there are two systems behind it. System 1 is the pressure-based activation. This is what most high performers are running. It's reactive, threat-driven, dopamine spiking, and short-term focused. It works, but it is unsustainable. The second system is the purpose-anchored system. This is intrinsic, identity-aligned, dopamine-sustaining, and long-term coherent. It's calm and it's powerful. And the reason most people never access system 2, it's because they've never been trained to do so. They've spent years reinforcing system 1, and now their brain doesn't trust that action can happen any other way. The pressure-based system creates a bust and boom cycle. High activation, then crash, then repeat. The purpose-anchored system works differently. It creates a sustainable cycle, steady energy, consistent action, and long-term capacity. Most high performers have never experienced this side because they have never trained their nervous system to activate from it. And that's what we are going to build together today. Here's what happens neurologically when you transition from pressure-based system to purpose-driven system. The pressure-based system activates through the amygdala and the sympathetic nervous system. Threat is detected, amygdala activates. Cortisol and adrenaline releases. Sympathetic nervous system engages, which leads to dopamine spike in anticipation of threat resolution. And then you act based on this. This is the extrinsic motivation pathway. It's fast, it's intense, and it's exhausting. The purpose-anchored system activates through the prefrontal cortex and parasympathetic engagement. First, clarity is established. Then prefrontal cortex activates. Then values and identity alignment happens. This helps the parasympathetic nervous system in regulating. Dopamine sustains through meaningful coherence, and you take action based on this. This is intrinsic motivation pathway. It's slower to build, but it's more powerful and sustainable. Here's the difference. Pressure-based system relies on dopamine prediction error, the gap between expectation and reward. Your brain is constantly chasing relief from stress. Purpose-anchored motivation, on the other hand, relies on dopamine baseline elevation. Your brain maintains a steady dopamine level through meaning, alignment, and coherent action. So one system burns dopamine, the other builds it. The reason most high performers cannot access purpose-anchored motivation is not because they don't have a purpose. It's because their brain doesn't trust that that purpose will generate results. Because their brain has learned that only threat generates results. Even when they feel aligned, they still wait for pressure to move. And that's what we need to rewire. This is a pattern that I had myself for years. So I'm talking from experience. Once you see this system, you will understand why everything you've tried hasn't worked so far. Let me show you the system that makes rewiring this possible. It's the identity loop system, and it's the structure beneath all sustainable motivation. Here's how your motivation system actually works. Everything starts with identity, who you believe you are. Your identity shapes your thoughts, what you believe is possible, true, or necessary. Your thoughts generate emotions, what you feel based on those beliefs. Your emotions drive behavior, what you actually do. Your behavior creates reinforcement, evidence that confirms or challenges your original identity. And that reinforcement feeds back into identity. This is the identity loop. And here's what matters. If you believe that I only act under pressure, then your thoughts will be, I need urgency to function. Your emotions will be anxious without deadlines. Your behavior will be waiting for crisis. And the reinforcement will confirm, see, I do need pressure. That's a pressure-based identity loop. But if your identity is, I act from clarity and purpose, then your thoughts will be, I know what matters and I'm moving towards it. Your emotions in turn will be calm, directed, grounded. Your behavior will be consistent action without needing crisis. And the reinforcement will confirm I can activate from within. That's a purpose anchored identity loop. This is why affirmations not applied correctly fail. Because if you don't change the identity at the top of the loop, everything downstream remains the same. You can't think your way into a new behavior. You have to rewire it. Now let me show you what this looks like in real life. Because theory is worthless without application. I worked with a colleague who had been running on pressure for 15 years. She was a high performer, successful by every external measure. But internally, she was burnt out. She came to me and said, I know my purpose. I know what I want to build, but I can't move unless there is a deadline. And I'm exhausted. Classic pressure-based identity loop. Here's what we did together. We mapped her current identity statement. I'm someone who performs best under pressure. Then we identified the cost, depletion, reactivity, no strategic thinking, relationship strain. Then we worked on building the new identity. I am someone who generates clarity and acts from it, with or without external pressure. This wasn't just an affirmation. This was a target operating identity. We followed this by the next step, thought rewiring. Every time her brain said, I need a deadline to start this, we replaced it with, what's one step I can take right now that aligns with my purpose? Not to force action, but to train her brain that action is possible without threat. We built a morning practice where she spent 5 minutes connecting to her purpose, values, and identity before looking at her task list. This created emotional grounding, independent of external conditions. As the next step, she started taking one small purposeful action every day. Something that had no deadline, no external pressure, but was aligned with her long-term vision. There was no push to achieve. The purpose was just to train her brain to understand that I can act from within. The step 5 was reinforcement tracking. At the end of each day, she logged her wins. What did I do today that came from clarity and not crisis? That evidence became the reinforcement that fed back into her identity. Within 5-6 weeks, her brain started trusting that action could happen without pressure. Within 8 weeks, she was initiating strategic projects before they became urgent. This is the evidence you need to understand that identity loop can be flipped. That's the identity loop in action. This is what we teach in our program for leaders who are accountable and committed to their growth and are willing to invest in it. If you are interested, the link is in the bio. So here's what I want you to understand. You are not broken because you've been relying on pressure. You were doing what your nervous system was trained to do. But that training is reversible. You can rebuild your motivation system. You can rewire your identity loop system. You can transition from pressure-based to purpose-driven system. And when you do that, everything changes. It did for me, not because I started working less or because I lowered my standards, because I am now working from a system that regenerates instead of depleting me. This is how leadership is built. Calm, directed, capable. Not because the pressure is gone, but because you don't need it anymore. This is nervous system science applied to leadership, a systematic system which you can actually rely on. Use it when you are ready to rebuild. If you found this video valuable, share it with someone who actually needs it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.